guys, Corina here, and today I have my favorite little sidekick with me, and we're going to talk to you guys about how to create and really edit down your budget meeting process. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so when I was thinking about this video, I started thinking about how my husband and I first got started with our finances and how we did our first budget, but also how our budget meeting has progressed and how we've really grown as we've been budgeting for the last 3 years. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I just shared with you our budget meeting and you got to see a glimpse into how that goes for us now, but things have not always been that way. Our budget meeting changes, you know, what it looks like changes basically from a month-to-month basis. I guess format of it adjusts a little bit just depending on what's going on. It has progressed a ton since we first got started budgeting, and I know that it can be really easy to look at what people are doing and think, oh my gosh, that's not what I do, maybe I'm doing something wrong. You're not doing something wrong if what you're doing is working for you. And I want to encourage you, because when we started, we literally would just say, okay, we have this bill due tomorrow, oh okay, let's just pay it. Like, it was not cohesive, it was not organized, it was a hot mess. So there is hope if you are at either that point or anywhere in between on the spectrum, or maybe you're doing budget meetings way better than we are. I would love to know your tips as well. So what I want to share with you guys today is a few tips on how to really get your budget organized and get yourself organized and have productive, conducive budget meetings. So I have several tips to share with you guys, and let's get started. So the first tip is to look at the past 3 months worth of expenses. You have to know what it is that you're spending, what it is that your needs are before you can really make a budget and be successful. You have to know what your habits are, what your patterns are, and that will really help you to understand what it is that you need going into your budget meeting. The next tip is to get a bill tracker to write out when your expenses are due, what date they come out, when they come out, what they are, whether they're irregular, whether they are on the same consistent day, if you pay them each and every month. Write out things that are due quarterly, things that are due annually. Write out different bills that you have, whatever it is that you have to pay that your money has to work towards, write it out. I like to do this because it's so easy to forget, you know, that one bill that comes out maybe every other month or every 3 months, or, you know, once a quarter, or those bills that come out that are pretty small, that aren't really a big significant part of your budget, but they still need to be accounted for. We're playing with a rattle. So you want to list out what those bills are and keep track of them with a bill tracker. There are tons of great free printables. If you need help putting together a budget binder, take a look at the video that I'll have linked below in the description box, because I listed tons of free resources there as well. I also really like to go to Pinterest when I need budget resources, because it's a great place to find those, and you just put in, you know, budget tracker free printable, and it will come up with a bunch of different options for you and resources. So definitely get a bill tracker to keep things a little easier for you. Okay, so the next part is probably one of the most difficult, but it is to set a date and time with either your spouse, who you're making your budget with, or with an accountability partner if you are single. So this is really like the hardest thing, because it can be so easy to make it and then like not commit, or the date comes up and you're like, oh, well, I don't really feel like doing it. Oh, let's just go do this instead. Or you wait for the other person to say, okay, is it time for our meeting? And you don't want to be the person to kind of like break, you know, the fun of whatever is happening. So my husband and I set our dates several times a month. So my husband and I set our dates several times a month because we like to budget by paycheck, as well as kind of an overall view of the month and what our goals are for the month. So we have budget meetings pretty frequently. That works best for us because it doesn't, you know, it helps to take away some of like the fear and anxiety of a budget meeting if you have them multiple times during the month. If you only have it once a month, then you kind of are looking at that day and it's kind of like looming, right? Each and every day that it gets closer, you're like, oh no, the budget meeting is closer, oh no, oh no. And suddenly it's there and you're like, maybe they'll forget about it. Maybe if I don't say anything, then no one will have to have a budget meeting. So you want to set those times and be accountable. give yourself, this is probably my number one tip for keeping your budget meeting a regularly scheduled thing, is to give yourself small rewards. If you're gonna have a budget meeting, say, okay, after this budget meeting, we're having dessert. After this, we're gonna watch our favorite show. After this, we're gonna go do XYZ. Make it something that is something that, that's enjoyable. Give yourself some sort of a reward for getting that done, because it's not easy and it's not fun all the time. Probably most of the time it's not very fun. So give yourself a little reward to help you look forward to that. Alright guys, so the next tip I have is to set out your goals and talk about them and make them as a team. Decide on what you're working towards and why you're working towards that, and really decide to go after it as a whole team. I like to think of kind of like a sports analogy. Right? If you set a goal as a team, then everyone's working towards the same thing. But if you have a bunch of individuals who have their own goals, everyone's working towards something on their own, and no one's really collaborating and putting in the same amount of energy towards one goal. So definitely make your goals together and then choose to attack them as a team. If you need visual aids, get those. If you need to write it out on a whiteboard and look at it every day, if you need to put it on Post-its, put it in your lunchbox, put it on your computer screen at work, whatever it is you need to do to keep those goals as a focus, do so and continue to just cheer each other on and work together. All right guys, so now we're getting into kind of the more practical sides of your budget. So the next thing you want to do is calculate your total income. Whatever it is that you bring in for the month as a family, write that down, whether it's, you know, you and your spouse, whether it's just your spouse that works, whether it's just you that works, whether you are a single person, write out your total income. And what my husband and I do is with any side income that we think will be coming in, we kind of estimate what that will be. We don't count on it because things can always change, things are always fluctuating, but we kind of give ourselves a rough estimate of what we're anticipating for side income for that month. So once we have all of that, then it's time to go on to the next step, which is to write out all of your expenses. And your bill tracker will come in handy for doing this. So you want to write out all your bills, but you also want to write out the other things that are needs within your household, groceries and gas and you know, daycare expenses and things like that. So all of those other things that aren't necessarily I'm paying the light bill and the electric bill and for the water, all of the other things that really encompass the needs for your family, write those out as well as your actual bills. So once you have your income written out as well as your needs or what your bills and expenses are for the month, go ahead and subtract your expenses from your income. Fingers crossed, things will be looking really good and you will have an excess left over. That excess is what you want to take and apply to whatever it is that your goal is that you're working on. So for us, that would be debt. Anything that's left over after we've subtracted out our expenses from our income goes to our debt. So once you have that excess number, figure out what it is that you want to allocate that towards. Do you have something that you need to pay and make a sinking fund for? Do you have something that you are working towards as far as either paying debt off or putting money into savings? Figure out what that goal is and what you want that excess money to go towards for that month. So figure out what you want the excess to go towards and write that out as well. Alright guys, so once you have your numbers all written out and you've written your goals, really make a plan. Say, okay, we're going to allocate this specific amount of money towards this goal in 2 weeks, or the next paycheck we get, or next week, or at the end of the month, and really make a plan that is clear and concise and that everyone agrees to. And the last tip is to stick to the plan. Honestly, you guys, this last tip can be the hardest because sticking to the plan is honestly like 90% of budgeting. You can write out what you want your money to do all day long, but if you don't actually make it do those things, then it's not working for you. So sticking to the plan is the hardest thing, but it's also the most rewarding. It's where you see the results, it's where you see progress, it's where your life really begins to change by sticking to the plan. Woohoo! We're sticking to the plan! Woohoo! Alright guys, and a final tip that I have to share with you is to be gracious and give one another grace. This budgeting stuff, money stuff is hard. It is not meant to make you enemies with each other. It's not meant to make you fight. It can be the biggest cause of fights between couples, so you want to guard against that. This is probably one of the biggest reasons why my husband and I knew we had to make a plan for our money. We wanted more than anything to avoid fighting and to avoid money issues within our marriage and our family. So that was a really, really big goal for us, and it still continues to be to this day. But we do so by making sure that we're giving each other grace and we are knowing that we're human and that we're gonna make mistakes, we're gonna have faults, we're gonna make accidents, or, you know, we're gonna have accidents, we're gonna overspend on some categories. Giving yourself grace is so, so important. It is really the key to making sure that your budget is successful. If your budget becomes a source of animosity and frustration, then no one is winning. You're just creating more chaos and stress than you need to. I highly encourage you to give each other grace and to just be gentle with yourselves. We are all learning, we're all improving, and the first step to improving is to just doing it the first time, or again and again and again. Thank you guys so much for watching. I would love to know what your #1 tip is when it comes to managing your money and having successful budget meetings, so let me know in a comment down below. And thank you for bearing with a wild 6-month-old in this video. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye. You ready to talk about the budget? You ready? You ready? I think you're ready. Let's do it. Bye, friends. Oh, say bye, friends. Bye, friends. Mamas. Hey. Sissy's down there, huh? Say, guys. Hey. You want to pet the doggo? He's trying to pet Kiki. It's a phase now. That's all he wants is doggo. Is this your toy? Is this your toy? Oh, it's your boy. Okay. Can you say bye, friends? Can you say bye to the friends? Bye, friends.